Hey, I'm back. What you up to? Oh, good stuff, good stuff. Yes, continuation of our conversation. Yeah, about the cases of people showing dramatic behavior on social media and IRL. To be honest, I kind of hate how that abbreviation is used, but I digress. Well, how that term is used just seems to lack the respect for reality's presence online. What exactly is the difference between communicating with real people when it comes to online or, quote, IRL? Is the internet not a tool used for communication, IRL, and searching for information? And I'm sure you've seen how bold and arrogant some people become when they are behind the keyboard. Is that a direct relation by the fact that no one can see them or possibly find them? Even though there are quite some tech savvy people online who, if they really want to find you, they will. Now, maybe I'm not aware of the original motive for using that abbreviation, so I'm open to any reasonable explanations. Hmm? Great question. Why is there so much drama with some of us humans when dealing with conflict? One of the common reasons is ignorance in how to handle it. Some just simply don't know any better, and the dramatic behavior is sometimes a form of frustration from not knowing how to deal with it, and the results that are reflected from that. However, there are other cases where the dramatic behavior is frustration from those not getting their way, and at that point, they're just being stubborn. So, what's the difference between the two, you may ask? If a person is ignorant of something but truly wants to resolve it, they'll search for the proper answers and apply them, the key factor being applying them. These individuals know that they don't know, and they will even examine themselves, recognizing that they have some loose screws and want to get those properly seated. Folks of this mindset are known as being wise. They learn from their mistakes and also those from others. Then there are those with stubborn mindsets, who may become aware of their ignorance and claim to search for answers, but they only search for answers that will help them get their way. They're not interested in mutual resolve or mutual respect. Some even swear up and down that there's nothing wrong with them, and the discrepancies they experience are all everyone else's fault, even when they contribute to a problem. Any of that sound familiar? Exactly. These folks operate in their emotions. And if you ever try to introduce reasonable logic to them, you may as well be walking through a minefield without a sweeper. So, as we were talking last time about communication and comprehension, one major cause of failure in ineffective communication in the area of comprehension is the negative mental status of the host. When the host is full of emotion, their comprehension is severely compromised. And it's actually quite easy for any of us to get caught up in our emotions, especially when chaotic and traumatic things happen. Now, this is not to say that our emotions don't have any place in the world. Of course they do. When something bad happens, it's a natural reaction to become sad or angry. It's when our emotions are left unregulated is when we run into problems, to which there is plenty of historical evidence of this. But another thing with it, some people use their emotions to get attention and validation. They'll put on a very convincing emotional show, and the non-wiser will fall for it. The common ones being white knights. Want to know one of the ways to detect people as this? When they don't want to resolve any issues within themselves that they're able to. Many of us who have been bullied and other forms of abuse tend to develop trust, anger, and depression issues when we don't resolve the pain. And there are some who refuse to resolve the pain due to the satisfaction they get from it. At that point, they have decided to remain a victim, just to get attention, validation, and other stuff that does not solve the problem. It only provides temporary relief that wears off more quickly each time, and the addiction for that attention and validation grows. And if you dare try to hold them accountable for that or anything else that is a direct result of their actions, they'll put you on a public trial for blaming a victim. What public trial? The internet, aka the social networks. They will do everything in their skills to try to nullify a truth that contradicts their whole victim sustenance argument. You know what it is? Accountability. And that element is indiscriminate. What a perpetrator does to us is their accountability. How we respond to it and what we do to ourselves after the perpetrator is gone is our responsibility. Emotionally unstable folk have a tendency to deny facts and any other reality, and they will lose their minds if any facts ever put them in a position where they can't wiggle their way out of with their emotions. Some untrained bystanders will even take their side, which is known as white knighting, and validate their dysfunction. You see it online all the time, especially when an individual actually offers information to help reconcile, even rehabilitate. Some of the bystanders who engage in white knighting will actually attack that individual. Or there may be cases to where the recipient will say they tried that and a half dozen other things. Well, one thing to argue too, how much effort was actually put in? Some of these posts I see where a person keeps suffering from a particular circumstance repeatedly. While I do have sympathy for them, at the same time, I also have questions as to what all the variables of the equation are that yield those results continually. Because as you know, people with unstable emotions and no guidance of wisdom have a tendency to lie, especially when hunting for unhealthy forms of attention and validation. I actually had a friend one time, you don't know them, but literally said to me when they had issues getting over their ex, they did not want to hear any logic about it. Mind you also, they broke up over a year ago. So at that point, I just dropped the question, when do they want to hear reasonable logic? They never answered the question, and at this point, we're not on speaking terms. Don't sweat it. But that's one way you can tell whether you're dealing with a wise person or an emotional person. Now, for the emotional folks, that does not mean they'll be that way forever, but it just might be they may still be in that phase, as people call it, long after you and them may part ways. And do not be fazed by that line some people use saying, if you can't deal with them at their worst, then you don't deserve them at their best. Because some of these folks don't even want to deal with themselves at their worst and expect others to just deal with them as is, which is related to... That's right, just giving them attention and validation. How do we deal with people stuck in their emotions? Ultimately, they need guidance. We all need attention and validation as we are social creatures, of course, but guidance is a huge necessity as well. And part of that guidance is accountability. Ultimately, the host has to want that guidance. They have to get to the point that they are tired of being in that emotional state that is not yielding the proper progressive and stabilizing outcomes. Let me tell you, I have witnessed cases where people were getting attention and validation all over, and that one person who did not do that for them, they lost their mind over it. That is not a stable way to live. If they're not going to listen to proper guidance and their behavior is escalating to a level that puts you at risk, then just like you did with your previous friend, keep your distance, no matter what they say or think about you. And in doing that, you also show them through example that it is possible and worth it to maintain your sanity, and you will not compromise it for anyone. So you've seen a lot of that going on in discussions of intimate relationships, huh? I see. Well, sounds like that'll be another chat for us to have another time. For now, let's take a break and watch a movie. Can't be talking about this stuff for too long. It'll really get you down. So, what movie are you thinking about?